Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogley's Guitar Show. Today we have a Gibson Les Paul Smartwood Studio Series guitar. Now, the Smartwood series was basically Gibson's take on sourcing sustainable woods that could be used for future generations to come. These things have some really exotic woods made out of them, but the Studio series has a Muiracatiara top with a Preciosa fretboard. Now, most people, when they see Muiracatiara written out, they go, "What is that?" And I had the same reaction. There is an easier way to say it. Some people just call it the Muir, or they call it tiger wood. Now, I think calling that tiger wood would be kind of cool. It's a little bit more marketable than Muiracatiara. And Preciosa, that's just Spanish for precious. But my big thing is, if Gibson can no longer use rosewood because of site's restrictions, why aren't we using this? This looks just as good, if not better, than rosewood, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe the tonal qualities of it are a little bit different, but the look is there. Why are we using baked maple when we've got this beautiful stuff that is apparently sustainable and can be used without any issues? Maybe it comes down to a cost thing, but now that ebony and rosewood, they're starting to become endangered, harder to get, sourced sustainably anyways. Why are we not using this research, Gibson? Now, the backs of these are still mahogany, as is the neck. It's just the fretboard and the top that kind of has an interesting wood. But honestly, I would be fine with this tiger wood stuff for the backs as well. I mean, look how figured this thing is. It's got a little bit of a natural sheen to the wood itself, similar to flame, but not quite. I call it figuring. It dances around a little bit. But this is just a beautiful guitar. Now, there are other Smartwood series. These started around 1996. I have reviewed one of the Smartwood Exotics. That's basically a Les Paul special. So think almost half the width of this guitar and with like a comfort cutaway. And that's kind of what that one is. There was an interesting story behind that one, so make sure you check out that video. So it's a Les Paul Studio made with fancy woods. However, what's a big pro to me personally is you have the mother of pearl Gibson logo, so it feels like a standard that doesn't have binding, and you don't have the trapezoid inlays. But the body does still look like it has binding, since you can see the Muir top right here, which makes it look like it has like a dark brown binding. So these really are interesting guitars, and I don't quite fully understand why Gibson doesn't still use this stuff if it's sustainable and respectful to the environment. Now, when I think the Smartwood series, this truss rod cover instantly comes to my head. It has a little bit of a leaf on it, and I've always wanted one that had that on it. I was surprised to find out this is not actually made of standard truss rod cover material. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those Lisa Frank stickers. They're kind of like gel stickers. That's kind of what this is. You can see in these photos, you can literally bend this thing, so it won't actually break, which I thought was interesting, and it's got a cool gummy texture to it. So I've always liked the design of this, but now that I've had one, it's like, wow, that really is a cool little feature that Gibson did. This particular example is all stock. You have a 490R and a 498T in the bridge, and it does have gold hardware. This guitar is a fairly respectable weight. It's not too heavy, but it's not too light either. The mahogany body does have chambering weight relief, but this guitar still weighs just about 8 pounds. Now, you can tell if your guitar is part of the Smartwood series because they'll have a decal on the back of the headstock that says Smartwood series. And you can usually tell what type of top you have. If you look in the pickup cavities, you'll see some sort of markings. This one has MU for Muiracatiara. So overall, if you see one of these, I do highly suggest checking them out. They're kind of like a Les Paul Studio that isn't necessarily any fancier as far as binding goes, but you have some crazily named wood, and they really just have a beautiful vibe to them. If you're into nice looking wood grain, some of these have that top for you. Now if you're looking for an awesome flame top, you're not gonna find that in here, but this is for us plain top lovers. Now that we know a little bit about this guitar, let's go ahead and hear how it sounds through a Marshall JMP-1C and a Gibson Super Gold Tone. Now that we know how this guitar sounds, let's go ahead and view its condition. Now this guitar is actually in pretty good shape. You've just got some light wear and tear. I would say the most noticeable is a small impression right here by the Gibson logo. It looks like it kind of rubbed up against something and got dinged, and you also have a little bit of a scuff around the edges. But besides that, just your average light wear and tear to this one. I do want to make mention that these top two tuners are a little bit bent. I tried to bend them back in place the best I could, but as you can see, they do still have a little bit of a bend to them. You still have your original nut, and the frets are in excellent shape. You've got some very mild fret wear, but for the most part, you won't have to worry about these for a long time. I just cleaned and oiled the fretboard, so this one is good to go for you. The top just has some light picking scratches and some light nicks and dings. I like this part of the guitar right here. There's a lot of natural figuring to the wood. And this is the stuff that doesn't show up in photos. So I think you really have to see a Smartwood in person to fully appreciate its beauty. Got a few light marks right there. Since this is kind of a satin finish, over the years of somebody's hand rubbing against this has naturally rubbed it into a gloss finish. You can kind of see the difference there. So if you were to take this top and just really polish it up really nicely, you could get a gloss top out of this. The gold hardware has worn a little bit here on the bridge, but for the most part it's in good shape. Back of the headstock, our serial number is 01377061-1. That makes this a 2007 model. And again, you have your Smartwood limited edition decal on it. There's a little bit of edge wear, as I mentioned before, and again, the slightly bent tuners, but for the most part, nothing too major to point out. Now right here at about the second fret marker, you've got a very small ding. You can kind of feel it when you play, but not really. It's just definitely good to know that it is there. Now the back of this guitar actually does have a nice little sheen to it. Once again, some natural figuring to the wood. Not quite flame, but still a beautiful sight to see. Now this guitar looks awesome from far away, but then once you get the light on it, you can see there's some buckle impressions and scratches into the guitar. But I would say this guitar definitely displays well, but it's definitely a player's guitar. You can see all these nicks and dings. Along the edges, you kind of have the same story. Again, the top looks like binding, so that's really nice. But here's some more of that impression marks from someone's jean rivet or something that just kind of scratched it up. So this is a great one for somebody that just wants an exotic looking guitar to play. It looks like you have a 3-piece body on this one, and just some light wear and tear on the side that you see. We'll do a quick black light test. Since this is such a thin satin finish, it only glows a little bit, but definitely looks the way I would expect it to be. Back of the guitar, once again, glowing the way I would expect to see. It looks like maybe it has a little bit of a stand rash right here, but in normal lighting situations, you do not see that. That could just be where the clear coat has been worn a little bit naturally over time as well. Sides of the guitar, again, just your light wear and tear, but nothing that doesn't pass this black light test. Face of the headstock also glows the way I would expect to see. As does the back of the headstock, no breaks, cracks, or repairs. But you can see right here that the finish has been worn off the neck naturally just by playing. And you can actually feel that in person. Like right here you can still feel the wood grain, but up here you can definitely still feel the finish that was originally on it. So it is a very thin satin finish, but since it was a clear color, you don't see any finish color difference in person. To illustrate that point again, here, you can see there's no color difference, but you can see the finish is a little bit more shinier in this area as compared to down here. But again, there are no breaks, cracks, or repairs to this guitar, because you'd easily be able to see them. Now these Smartwood Studios came in their own exotic case. It says Gibson USA certified on it. Now these are covered in a burlap material. I almost thought it was hemp like the piece cases, but it's not. And I was reading up on these cases because this thing was absolutely trashed and I was a little bit sad. But I guess Gibson did not actually do the bottom stitching to this case like they did on the top because they wanted it to have a worn, weathered look. In retrospect, that was probably a bad idea because the cases just look so worn, it doesn't really make any sense. But I can kind of understand their thinking. The inside of the case is a beautiful black interior, and it does complement well with the tan burlap color. The lid ribbon has broken, but it still protects the guitar very well. If you think you might be interested in owning this Preciosa fretboard and Muiracatiara topped Gibson Les Paul Smartwood Studio, feel free to contact me on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Troglys, Troglys. Thank you for tuning in, Troglodytes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.